Hey everyone, welcome back to the Biotech Project. On the last recording, despite my great echo the entire episode and getting to hear myself twice, Scott had mentioned that we're going to come back and speak to you a little bit about some of the new things that are happening in terms of trends in the biotech industry. And as Scott mentioned, unless you're living under a rock, everybody knows that artificial intelligence is really where it's at today. It's the big new kid on the block. So today we're going to spend a couple of minutes chatting about how AI is affecting drug development. And then Scott's going to tell us a bit about how it's affecting the commercial side of the business. So looking forward to being back with you guys again today. And let's do this.
You want to break into and navigate your career in the pharma and biotech industry. We know how to teach you. This is the Biotech Project. From sales to medical affairs and everything in between, we're talking about it. No matter how you got here, from here to your next role is up to you, and we're here to help. You'll hear from guests in every role, from CEO to sales, recruiters to hiring managers. The Biotech Project. Here are your hosts, Scott Resnick and Dr. John Walsh.
Here we are. So good to see you again, John.
Good to see you too, Scott. Glad to be back.
So, it's amazing because I think probably because I've got kids that are school age, where yours are just a little bit older. I feel like AI has been a part of my life for like the last year and a half. In part because you had a lot of kids that discovered Chat GTP, over the last year and a half, and discovered that it was a great way to get out of doing homework to a point.
Yeah.
And having to explain to my kids that, using it to do your homework isn't going to help you when at the end of the day they need to know something for a test. Or if the teacher grabs you aside and says, hey, that was a fantastic out of context for you, report you did. How'd you come up with your thoughts? And you've got to look them in the eye and say, I'm not sure. So, but AI has certainly been out now for a little bit of time. And I don't know about you, but I can't be on Facebook or LinkedIn or anything without something popping up, some new AI tool or resource that's guaranteed to make my life better, make my life easier, streamline the things I'm doing, whether it's for work or at home. It's everywhere. Are you seeing that too?
Oh, absolutely. And it's really funny, Chat GPT was brought to me by my kids as well. And it is just an incredible tool in a way. And I think everybody's been chatting a lot lately about the pros and cons of AI, all different types of AI. I think when it's used well, this could be absolutely positively fascinating and super productive. Obviously, there's the yin and the yang of every story. And we hear things about the potential downsides of AI too, right? And I think we could probably do a whole episode or maybe get an expert on AI that could come in and really speak to some of that stuff too. But it's great, man. It's always fun when new things come out.
It really is. And, I think it's an area where we're just going to, as you said, kind of like brush the canvas with this subject a little bit. But it'll be interesting maybe a year from now when we look at this episode and we say, wow, how much has changed in just that 1 year when it comes to AI and the effect on the industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, as I said earlier, one of the things I'd like to chat about today is kind of drug discovery and how it's changing the face of clinical development. Just some of the really, really cool things that it's doing that really are assisting our industry is just phenomenal. One of the things in particular is target identification and validation, right? The amount of effort that goes into coming up with a new compound and then also saying where that compound may work and hypothesizing based on its chemical structure and based on what the potential targets could be, was a lot of manual labor, and I think obviously that doesn't go away, right? We have to prove those things, but this is really accelerating the initial stages of drug discovery today. And I have my son's girlfriend, in fact, is in the drug development side of the business and works at the bench, and I know how much work it takes for them to do a lot of this. So having an AI tool to be able to assist them and at least weed out things that don't look like they're going to be great targets and help them zero in, it helps them be more efficient, and they can screen more compounds and more targets over time. So there's so many potential great uses for it on the drug development side. And then the other thing that's really, really cool that it's been doing is in addition to screening all the different compounds, is then once you figure out what they are, is doing some predictive modeling about it, right? What is potentially the activity of the drug? What's the pharmacokinetic profile potentially of the drug? And what is its binding capacity? All of the characteristics we look at when we think about developing a compound, because you can see a great compound that gets to a target, but if the PK is horrible or the tox profile is unacceptable, then obviously it's not something we can bring forward. So there are so many cool things that can be added today, just incredible. And I'm sure you're seeing that too on the commercial side of the business as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, on the commercial side, the things that come to mind is, and a lot of these terms are the same, right? Predictive modeling. So when a brand team is looking at how a campaign might, affect the really the return on, the changes of the investment that they're making in something, using predictive modeling to see how something is going to reach an audience, and what their response is going to be based on historic data. When you present something in a particular publication, what can that mean to the outcomes, and then making these models on where it goes from there. I think even commercialization from a footprint perspective, using AI to help determine, based on data that's out there, whether it be physician reach or penetration, frequency modeling. Using AI is just going to take things that probably took months and a lot of money. They'll be able to probably purchase a license to a software. They can input certain parameters, and it should spit out essentially the answers that would have taken a long time to get. Market research, competitive intelligence. I mean, it just seems like the opportunities are really endless when it comes to utilizing AI. And then I think even things like adverse event modeling, which falls on the commercial side. When we hear things, when we're out in front of physicians, and we have to report that back, being able to compile that using AI and make determinations and look for patterns, things that would have taken an enormous amount of effort and time to help develop. I think those things are going to be really streamlined. And at the same time, to be honest, from the perspective of somebody on the commercial side, I'm sure it's going to open up the world to lots of things like micromanaging, right? Looking at maybe how somebody looks at their territory. In other words, so you've got physicians in location ABC. They'll probably come out with a model that'll tie into like Salesforce or something and give you a suggestion for this is exactly how you should go see your doctors. And the challenge with that is it's going to take available information, but it might not take into things like personal knowledge of the situation or the territory and whatnot. But maybe at some point that'll grow, and you'll even see that where it takes into account things like traffic patterns and physician office hours, and makes suggestions for you on how your day should look. I just see that there's just like with everywhere else, there's probably some really good things to come out of it, and then some things that are going to challenge the industry.
Yeah. And the thing that's cool too, Scott, is I think we are going to. I was going to say we're going to see AI, but what I'm about to say says just the opposite. We're not going to see a lot of the AI that is really obvious. In other words, let's say in the commercial side of uh, in the biopharma industry, you might be using a CRM like Viva, right, to manage your platform of your customers, right? In our world, the medical teams might be using an analogous system, uh, and all the different feeds that come into it may not appear like they're interacting live with all this big data out in the AI world, but in fact, they probably
Sure.
are. So we're going to be getting streams of AI information, I would suspect, over time in varying degrees throughout all the different systems that we're using. It's pretty obvious when you go into an AI generator or you go into an AI tool what we're using. But I think the thing that's wild is that it's going to start integrating into parts of our lives seamlessly, and we're not going to even realize it's part of what we do every day. You know?
Yeah, and I think the things that seem like really exciting about AI is when they start to integrate directly with EMR systems and whatnot. And the physician that just happens to miss a lab from 2 years ago to today, but the AI picks it up and sees a trend that the physician didn't even notice, and says, based on this trend and these medications that the patient's already on and their family history that it's been able to access, here's kind of next steps for that patient's care. And
Hmm.
those are the things that I think are going to eventually tie in also, because we already know that the industry is able to um, you know basically help steer patient care with things like pathways and whatnot. So imagine that next gen pathway where you can feed directly into the EMR clinical data that it will then analyze and say, based on three drugs that are fairly close in, their Me Too status, if you will, but for this patient with this particular lab and this particular patient history and the clinical data, when you look at that subpopulation, the data was better for one versus the other. I mean, something that you I couldn't deliver that message on as somebody out in the field, and you as the physician probably wouldn't have that level of intimate knowledge of a particular trial to be able to make that really highly personalized decision for that patient. I mean,
Sure.
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, and I think, if medicine embraces this type of technology and it's used well, just think about all the diagnostic possibilities, right? You go and you order a test. Let's just say, for argument's sake, it's a CAT scan, right? The CAT scan comes back. Right now, a radiologist reads that. There's always the potential for human error. There's also the ability then to compare that CAT scan now to hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions of different CAT scans and databases, and show all the potential variants that are there, show any pathology or early pathology that the naked eye may not pick up, but at a pixel level, the machine is able to start to analyze and be able to give us feedback early on about what the diagnosis might be. And to your point, then really direct what the best therapy is. And I think there'll always be uh, a human component, obviously, to medicine, because look, somebody definitely has to examine a patient. Someone has to do a lot of the things that are required to get a really good history, et cetera. But when you have all of that objective data and it's all there in front of you, um, you know, it's so possible that the machines will be able to pull things together and draw conclusions and at least give us a lot more to think about. I like to think that we'll still be able to make some of our own decisions, but the possibility set grows when you're given a lot more possibility.
Yeah, and the flip side to that, you're going to have um, people that push back and say, well, that can eliminate jobs and it can eliminate the human touch, right? So uh, it's interesting. A lot of times when I'm talking to a physician and they're looking for a black and white answer to something, and there might not be a black and white answer, and a lot of times my response is, listen, this is where medicine is an art and you need to have that connection with the patient, like they're a canvas to paint the picture that makes things clearer. And it'll be interesting to see where that crossover is and how those worlds collide and whatnot. But I certainly think AI is just barely touching our industry at this point. But as we talked about over the last 15 minutes, I mean, there's just so many areas where it will eventually converge, and it may supersede things previously. And drug development and personalized medicine is going to be enhanced that much by AI being able to drill down, looking at ultra rare diseases somewhere, some places where you just wouldn't be able to collaborate that data. You can now use AI to seek it out and bring it together in ultra rare, things. So it's really exciting. And you as being both a physician and on the drug development side, I mean, I can't imagine, how the impact is going to be in your world and in the not too distant future.
No, I think you're right. And I think, independent of the biotech industry, I really think that it's going to change all of our lives to some extent. So we all have to be on the lookout. I don't think it matters what field we're in today. I think it'll seep in there somehow. But the one thing I don't think it'll be able to do is replace this podcast. So I'm really glad we've been able to get back on track. I'm excited we're able to talk about AI today, and I look forward to what the rest of the season brings.
Well, I certainly can't agree more with you on that. No machine language is going to be able to replace us. So, it hasn't even gotten good enough to get rid of that echo from that last episode from you.
I hope so, Scott. We're working on it. Yeah.
Long way to go. But hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. And, we didn't mention in the beginning, but please go to our YouTube page and subscribe and like these videos. Go to our podcast website, www.biotechproject.com, and subscribe to our podcast. It's available everywhere. Wherever you want to listen, go ahead and give a listen, and email us at hosts, HOSTS, at thebiotechproject.com. Let us know what you're thinking is going on, and we'd love to have your thoughts on in the comment fields on AI and what it's doing to industry and how it's affecting your day-to-day life and your part of the Biotech Project. So thanks, everybody, for joining us, and hope you guys are doing well, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Fantastic. Thanks, Scott.
To the Biotech Project. Scott and John have 50 years of combined expertise with roles that have covered everything from frontline sales to senior vice president of medical affairs. Scott and John are industry veterans, equipping you with knowledge from guests in every role from CEO to sales, recruiters to hiring managers. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope you've gotten some useful and practical information. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, check out the website at www.thebiotechproject.com. And for questions and comments, send an email to hosts@thebiotechproject.com. See you next time.